恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto sucedoye olahudi sammeao sanputoshe.
Namo satanto sucedoye arahati sammiao samputo-xie.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿皆如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. This is Saturday night. It's October the 9th. And no, that's not right. It's November the 9th. And we would be back out of daylight savings. This is November the 9th. We're here in Berkeley, California, and we're going to be looking into the Flower Garland Sutra's 10 stages chapter, the Shirdi Pin. And we also have folks listening in Australia, in Queensland, who are listening to the English. Welcome to all of you. It's 12:30 in the afternoon, 12:40 there, and spring in Australia. And they're helping us by translating into Chinese for people who are listening on in the northern hemisphere, but on the eastern, if you divide it that way, it's the eastern side of the planet. But if you're in the east, then we're the western side. We have a Vietnamese translation happening up in the balcony for us, if anybody would like to hear Vietnamese. And we're glad that you're here tonight. If you would take the text that's in front of you and look at the titles there. It says, Homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra. That's the name of our text. Of great expansive teachings. And the Ocean-Wide Flower Garland Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. That's the spiritual beings who delivered this text first. We're going to recite that 7 times. And we do it in Chinese, which is printed there below. If you can read the Hanzi, you're in good shape. If you can't, then look at the ABCs. Na, Mo, Da, Fang, Guang, Fo, like that. And we'll chant along. The melody is simple. It's not a difficult melody, and it repeats. And the purpose of the chanting is, on one hand, it's nice to make music together, but it's got another purpose, which is to invoke, to welcome the spiritual presence of those beings and also the sutra. Like that, right? Here we go. Namo Tava Last time. And we have what do you say? What's the word for it? We have a compelling, entertaining, I hope. We have a, it's just neat. We have a neat section of the text tonight, which has to do with singing. It's musical. It's praising. So it's coming from the heart. A devotional part of text. So it's devotion, right? We like devotion because it's pouring out the heart with feeling. And the song, the devotion that we're hearing, the praising, the chanting, is being done by goddesses. Says specifically who's doing the singing. And our sutra, I like that we're listening tonight through a window into the heavens. And that's rare, right? What were you doing last Saturday night? I was hanging out in the heavens, listening to what the Devas, when they're happy, what they do, and they sing. How cool is that? All right, and we're on page 4 and 5 in your text, if you'll open that right up. And the way we do our protocol is we first read the text in Chinese to keep one foot on this end of the bridge, which is the source of the Flower Garland Sutra, and then one foot on our side of the bridge, which is the West, 21st century. And we go back and forth across that bridge, and it feels solider, feels completer. Those aren't words, but it's more solid and more complete when we, the Chinese say, yin shui si, right? You sip the water and you remember, water's nice to have, first of all, and I'm grateful that I've got it. So this is Dharma water, and we're grateful that we have it, and we remember where it came from. It's not easy to get it. Okay, so far so good. Top of page 4, I'll give you a line and you give it back. Same process with the English and the Chinese. Although I'm sorry, it's not the same quite. It's special here because we have the Chinese characters, the Hanzi on top. Underneath each character is its pronunciation, spelled out in Hanyu, pinyin, P-I-N-Y-I-N, called pinyin, the way you spell it in alphabet. Then the English is over on the right. So we got the Chinese, 2 different forms, and the English on the right. Okay, here we go. 天珠才女无有量，米不欢心供养佛，各奏种种妙乐音，悉依此言而赞叹。Cool. Over to the right. Read together with me. Pay attention to the white spaces and the punctuation that tells you where to breathe. Ready? Here we go. All the exquisite Deva maidens, limitless in number, rejoiced, every one, as they made offerings to the Buddha. They all played marvelous music of many kinds and praised the Buddha with the following words. Yes. Okay. There it is. Simple, straightforward. Deva maidens are about to sing for us. Ha-ha. Yeah, I'll put that on my Spotify playlist. Let's say Deva maidens praising Buddha with my thumbs, right? Out comes, actually I'd prefer Pandora, right? We'll put it into Pandora and get probably there won't be more than one channel that's giving us a playlist from the heavens, but we'll take it however it comes. Now, I want to point out some ideas here. Where are we? This is a text, a Mahayana Buddhist Sutra, been around in the world for many, many centuries. Luckily, we have it in Chinese and English, both. And the theme, what are we talking about? We're talking about what's called a Bodhisattva, an awakened being, somebody who's already knows enough to get out of suffering, somebody who could step into nirvana now if they chose. They could finish, right? They could reach the peak of their spiritual path and quit if they chose. And there are people who would say, yeah, and why not? I don't really believe that with that option they wouldn't take it. I've heard that from monks who say, you want me to believe that there's somebody who could enter nirvana and doesn't? Fairy tales, you know. Who is that altruistic, you know? Oh, my teacher, you know, for one, and everybody in the Avatamsaka Sutra for 2, for 1 million. So they do. They say, no, it's okay. I know enough to save myself from further suffering, but I have seen the reality that we're all connected in body, in mind, and in nature, which is the one that really counts. We all have a piece of this Buddha nature. And for me to transform my confusion into insight and wisdom, and then stop, is not actually the truth because of that connection. So a bodhisattva is somebody who sees very far. They see very deep, and they understand the what's called tong ti da wei, one of our best slogans in the Mahayana, which is same body, great compassion. Great compassion that understands the identity in substance, that we're one stuff, we're not two. And for me to go wake up and kick back to Palm Springs and say I'm done, nothing, quote, wrong with that. It's just not there yet. It's not entirely home. So the Bodhisattva, now, does this path have an end? Yeah, it does. And it's pretty lofty. I'll give you an example. We have you can't see them because the lights are inside, not outside, but this window here, those of you watching on screen can't see it, but that's Earth Store Bodhisattva, Kshitigarbha, Didam Pusa. And Earth Store, Earth Treasury Bodhisattva, according to the tradition, is here. He's a 10th stage Bodhisattva, and this is where we are as the 10th stage, right? This is the Shirdi. And he has a vow that says, only after the hells are empty will I end my path. And that means never. When are the hells going to be empty? Don't hold your breath. Because, why? As soon as somebody's lifted out of the hells, more people burrow their way right into the hells. But that's his wish. He says never, essentially. He doesn't say it that way, but he says, I'm willing to wait. I'm okay in the hells. Don't worry about me. I'm good. I can stay in that place where it's the worst neighborhood on the map, right? And I'll stay here because I'm basically flame-proof. We used to say I have asbestos clothing. Can't say that anymore. That's not a good thing. So, but he's fireproof. So there's somebody who says, no, I'm here until the hells are empty. That's good. Okay. So that's what the sutra is about. And the Buddha is another whole level of attainment. Notice, we're talking about bodhisattvas. We don't talk about Buddhahood, Buddhaship, Buddha state that much, because the sutra is delivered kind of in the light of the Buddha, from the Buddha's mouth, transmitted through mouthpieces, spokespersons, bodhisattvas who speak the text. But it's from the Buddha. And the nature that the bodhisattva is tuned into is called the Buddha nature, but the focus is on bodhisattvas. And interestingly, one of the things that these devas, the singing they're going to do, the singing we get to listen to, the song that these goddesses are singing, is about the Buddha being able to go from the end of the path back. They don't quit. Right? Now, if I just set foot in our Buddha Hall here in the Berkeley Monastery, or let's say in the Gold Coast Dharma realm, or wherever we're listening tonight for the first time, if I was just, hey, I want to find out what those Buddhists talk about, right? I might think, Buddha, who's the Buddha? Well, we've got the happy Buddha, we got Huan Shifo, we have Maitreya Bodhisattva, big, fat happy Buddha. Maybe we got that as the idea. Or maybe it's not like that. Maybe we've seen different Buddhas. Maybe we come from a Thai tradition, or a Sri Lankan tradition, or Cambodian, Laotian tradition. We've seen the Buddha, and if it was me who was raised as a Protestant Christian, my way of relating to that is a religious authority figure like God, okay? And it's very easy to put the two together. In fact, I did that growing up. My understanding of the Buddha had a lot to do with my understanding of God. I kind of morphed the two into one. And the Buddha that we're hearing about here is really, really not that. Which is what? Some solitary male figure in the heavens far away, benevolently smiling down. Not. The Buddha given to us in the Avatamsaka Sutra is someone who has erased the self bit by bit by bit by giving it away, by refusing to be selfish at every opportunity, by meditating it away, bowing it away, all the different ways we eliminate that big me in the middle that is the kind of the darkness at the center of everything. And as a result of having done that, now the mind is awake. And I'm going to use mind/nature as kind of the same entity, right? When the mind, nature is awake, all these amazing functions start to operate. For example, kindness, compassion, wisdom, eloquence, the paramitas, the perfections, all of these ways of teaching that we've been studying about the last couple months in the earlier chapters, right? All that stuff's working now. It's really, really working. What do we have to compare? Did anybody in the room have a Palm Pilot? A couple of hands. You're old. You're not old. How did you have a Palm Pilot? You had used your dad. Your dad gave it to you, right? Right? It's a Palm Pilot. So, okay, how many people had a BlackBerry? Not very many hands went up. You should see my drawer upstairs. I got Palm Pilots and BlackBerries, generations of them. Okay, how many people had the first generation iPhone? One hand. Okay. Now we've now what? I read they were something like 700 million iPhones are being sold this year, some crazy numbers. Check that. I'm sure they'll check. Not to mention Android phones, smartphones. Okay. The ability of the Palm Pilot, which was a PDA, a personal digital assistant, right? Back in the day, was it kept your contact list. It allowed you to, did it have phone? I guess it did have phone capabilities. It was a phone, but it had your date book, and it could take rudimentary notes. And one of my Palm Pilots, I don't think they had cameras, but it had a keyboard down there, and you could actually type, just like a computer keyboard, only tiny, right? And it was marvelous. It was incredible. People would go, it's so small, and it does so much, right? Like if you hadn't seen one, you wouldn't have imagined that you could do so many things with this little thing that you didn't put in your pocket, right? It was called a palm top, not a laptop, but a palm top, right? And there are people wags and people who pay attention to technology who say, just wait, in another 10 years, it will be a palm top. It'll be inserted. It'll be a biological palm top. You just, hello, So, and then you wait for the upgrade, add some RAM. So what am I talking about? Function. A Buddha is somebody who has functioned from the ability to what? Sit still and hold your mind in one place, to now the Buddha knows what you're thinking and knows where the knot is tied and how to untie it for you and make you happy in the process. Can teach you how to get past your confusion, my confusion, and make me happy in the process. That's what a Buddha can do. Can solve your problems and make you think it was your idea. So you'll keep doing it, right? That's what a Buddha can do. among other things, and do it on a scale that just fills worlds. The Avatamsaka is great in, taking one fact and then blowing it out into exponentially many more levels. So, okay, so far so good. Who's the Buddha in there? Nobody. It's functions. It's you're sitting there, you're the Buddha, but it's just your nature that has now gone from Palm Pilot to iPhone 11, let's say, with the new iOS 13.3.2, which is the current iteration. And what can it do? Oh my goodness, it now recognizes my face, right? And often I'll take my glasses off and I hold my phone up and it won't recognize me, right? I have to go, oh damn it, why did they I thought it used to be a thumb. I used to like my thumb, So I could train it to recognize me without my glasses. It'll do two faces, right? But it only does it from right angle, so I have to hold my phone up. It's me, you idiot, oh, thank you, now I can use my phone. How amazing is that, And somebody said, yeah, that's because how many times do you only have one hand and you can't thumb it with one hand? Thumb takes two, so that's a real advance to have it recognize your face. Okay. If you had told me 10, 15 years ago when the Palm Pilot came out and the BlackBerry came out that my phone would be telling me who I am, approving of my appearance, no way. But that function is happening. The Buddha cultivates until these amazing functions that are embedded in our operating system, that are part of our nature now, but uncovered. Now they function, right? In the days of the Palm Pilot, all those functions were promised, the same materials, silicon chip, pathways, copper wire in there, and then shrunk down. But look at the functions that are possible now that we are able to make it happen. That's very interesting. We have Buddhahood functions inside us, and where is the Buddha as he's sitting there? Well, we're going to find out. We haven't heard the song yet. The song's coming up. And the Devas are praising those functions and the person who put herself down so many times, took the short end of the bargain, got the short end of the stick, took the bad bargain, and as Master Hua would say, 吃亏 enough, took a loss enough that the self actually yielded, and the nature appeared from within the confusion of me and mine in there, right? And so that functions now in a remarkable way, and the sutra tells us that Buddhas go off and show up in other worlds as bodhisattvas to do the same thing, to help us wake up. And that, I maintain, is different from my early understanding of, the happy Buddha, the fat, laughing, smiling figure on the altar, or the solitary Buddha in full lotus who kind of went off to nirvana and that's the last you heard from him. Not even an email or a text. So it's very different. Interesting how the Buddha of the sutra in Avatamsaka is a very different conception of what the religious authority figure can do, right? And I would maintain that it's not even bound by gender in the Mahayana. That what we hear is that the Buddha's transformed bodhisattvas can appear in any form needed to teach. They don't care. They want to pop up as your mom, they can do that. Imagine your mom there to cross you over. Uh-oh, what did I say to her? I better call her. Maybe she's not happy with me. Yeah, so pretty amazing how the sutra conceives of Who says? Who's got the power? Right? Okay, that's enough of the prelude. There's the preliminary, getting us into the place where we can appreciate what's happening. Okay, ready? Number 2. Wait, sorry. No, we need to do more. Otherwise, I'll just go into a long Dharma talk instead of a sutra lecture. Here we go. Number 2, ready? I'll give you a line. 佛身安坐一国度，一切世界悉现身，身相断言无量义，法界广大悉充满。Okay, ready? On the right, here we go. The Buddha sits in repose in a single land, yet his bodies appear in all worlds everywhere. His physical hallmarks are majestic and limitless in number, as they fill the great expanse of the Dharma realm. Yeah. Why did I want to go back? Because we didn't talk about 2 things, music and offerings. We talked a lot about offerings last week and the week before that too. And let me do that first. It occurred to me, I made a point of describing the fact that these spiritual beings are giving gifts to each other. And what's that like? What kind of gifts do they give? What is expected in the giving of offerings? And how it's not, the value of the offering is not in the price of the thing, right? It's not that rich people get further with the Buddha because they can give you a fancier price tag item, a higher cost item. Not. Furthermore, the things that are given, if it's material stuff, are often connected to nature. So, here we have flowers, and here we have music as an offering, right? And we also have candles or lamps. Not so much oil lamps because our monastery is made of wood. And oil lamps leave a residue everywhere. So, but oil lamps are, because it's, they make a nice light. So we don't have open flames, but lamps. How about lamps? Food is a fine offering, and it's not gourmet stuff necessarily. The Buddha is not going, oh, his offering bowl is looking a little thin today. Huh? Who's in the kitchen? You know, nah. We often have to weed out people who are new. Kind of put something from every dish into the offering bowl. The Buddha doesn't, he's like, I think the Buddha likes pho. How do we get some of those noodles in here? There we go. Master Hua said, rice, starch, right? Bread, noodles, okay. The other 2 bowls can be whatever, but what the Buddha's, it's the mind that offers that counts. It's the sincerity of the mind that offers that counts. All right, so that's material stuff from nature a lot. But we talked about how the Buddha, according to this very sutra, the Buddha values most offerings that come from the place that's hardest to give, which is our minds. Giving up a bad habit, oh man, that's a supreme offering, right? If you like to use 4-letter words with your buddies, and then let those go. Try to use less profanity in the words. We don't let that casual F-bomb, slip in there. Just catch it and go, I wouldn't say that in front of my mom. I won't say it in front of my friends either. And what a difference, Things like that, just giving up habits. Not gossiping, right? Just refusing to pass on, talk about someone else behind their back. Just don't. You'd be amazed at how much gossip flows through our ears in conversation with friends. Oh my goodness. Right? Just don't. Instead just pull it back. nobody likes to have people talk about us behind our backs, right? Man, oh man, you hear somebody, conversation in the hallway, and you walk by and the conversation stops, right? Oh, that burns. Right? Are they talking about me? You know, oh. So if we can just refuse to pass on gossip, 不讲是非是为解脱, right? It is true liberation to not pass on gossip, talking about other people behind their back. These kind of things, if we let them go, what's that called? The highest of offering. Best kind. It's called the giving of Dharma. 主供养中法供养最. The highest kind of gift we can give is the gift of Dharma. And that's the gift of Dharma, something that's changing a habit. Oh my goodness. All right, so those are kinds of offerings. As I was thinking about that tonight, it just occurred to me that there are places in the Buddhist community, in the Buddhist world, where as soon as you hear offerings, first thing that crosses the mind is money, cash, checks, credit cards, traveler's checks, right? Bank transfers, PayPal. Oh man, and people tell me I'm naive. I've been told by lay people, 不懂事. You know, why? Where's our offering box? Where's our donation box? Some of you don't even know, right? Yeah, you have to kind of look at, it's got a heater in front of it, you can't even see it now. Sometimes it has stuff on top of it, so you have to move it to get to, Why? This is not a transaction. Speaking Dharma is not a deal. We're not making deals in the Dharma. And this layperson who was scolding me said, you should put that up by the door. You make it bigger. It's brown. Make it bright. Make it red. Come on. Yellow letters. Come on. How? 你不懂事情. Telling me that I should make it bigger, make it brighter, make the letters, Otherwise, how will I guarantee the income, And certainly we watched this particular layperson, and she she had a variety of schemes to get some of that money in her pocket. It was clear that she had been asked to leave another monastery in San Francisco for precisely that. So I knew that about her, so I was already not interested in following her advice. But just in general, Master Hua never, ever, ever charged for the Dharma. And I assumed that was the way it was done everywhere. And then as I got out in the world, I really know. There are some of the biggest monasteries in Taiwan. If you want to take part in the Great Compassion Repentance, where you stand in relationship to the Buddha is determined by how much money you put down at the door as you come in. And sign in to get your bowing cushion. More money, closer to the Buddha. Right? And I was like, oh my goodness. And mind you, those monasteries have high overhead. Those are fancy places that require lots of money to run them. And look, you notice these are space heaters because our furnace went out. So we're bare bones here. And it's toasty. It's warm in here. It's not all that cold tonight. By the way, did you all see? Apparently, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, there is an Arctic cold wave coming into the Midwest and to the East that they say they're already predicting it's going to break the records in 170 cities. That there's some inversion has happened, that Detroit, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, it's going to be real cold next week. So my point is what? I was with that thought that when some people hear offerings, they think right away their credit cards twitch, their cell phone bank account blinks, And I put that thought into the sutra, and I thought, where here is there monetary transaction in any of the activities that the sutra gives us? And I couldn't find them. Now, that doesn't mean the Buddha and good Buddhists are not naive about the value of things. And when they use money to do real world things. But it's the Dharma, the flow of the teachings at no time goes to the financial office before it comes back out into the mind of the listener, right? Not. Everything here is voluntary. The Devas are singing because they are moved by what the Buddha has done to open those incredible wisdom and compassion functions in his or her nature. They're not paid to sing, right? The money side of the offering is just not lighting up in the brain, much less in the transactions. It's not pay to play in the Dharma, in the sutra, right? Am I right? Can you find anywhere in here that it says those who could afford it bowed to the Buddha? Right? Doesn't say that, right? So I want to, maybe nobody else thought that, but I was just, that some people were reflecting, boy, I wonder how much it costs to make offerings to the Buddha. Back in India then, what would that equivalent be in today's cash? I don't think so. I don't think so. And one of the hallmarks of our 30 monasteries around the world is 20 monasteries around the world is that tonight's sutra lecture is free of charge and will always be. So that's interesting. Okay, the other point I want to make is this: music. What I wanted to talk about was that I was just in New York with a Buddhist music troupe. And I wish you all could have been there. You would have had to struggle for seats because the Lincoln Center was full, and I was told the tickets were $120 each. Now, that's a performance at New York's prime. That's not Buddha Dharma per se. That was an evening performance, right? So I couldn't imagine that tickets would be that expensive. And what? The show was really good. It was amazing to listen to, not only because there were some rare sounds, but because the performers were first class and completely sincere. And I have to say, they didn't get a penny for their performance. They were monastics. Everybody on the stage was a monk. It was all male show because it came from men's monasteries in China. But look what was there. They had a choir of some 50 bhikshus who I saw back in Hangzhou at Lingyinsi training. And they were, this music, they were still learning their stuff. And I gave them an English translation of the Sambao Ge. Now I know this alone, the true refuge place, taken directly from our, there's no yellow book, taken directly from our yellow book. Visualize the yellow book, right? It's right there in the back pages, and I gave it to them, and they're going, now I know this alone. They learned it word by word, sang it on the stage. It sounded great. So I saw them still learning their performance, learning the songs, right? And their choirs, their trios, their solos, their duets, pulled them off just great. And I saw the backstage jitters because I was the MC and we were all backstage together and watched these young men go out. And they had been prepared by they had a musical director, they had a theatrical director, and they had a blocking stage director. 3 professional grade men from China the stage director was an old Zhang Yimou generation theater director who really, he was a friendly man, Mr. Zhao, and he's an old-timer, he must have been 70, had a baseball cap, he wore his baseball cap all the time. And he knew how to whip up the troops. If he had been a military general, he couldn't have done a better job. And he was going, now you're going to be in the biggest city in the world, New York. Everybody knows New York is the capital of the world, right? And you're going to be on a stage, the #1 performance venue in New York, Lincoln Center. That's the highest quality stuff in the world, the best shows, the opera, the ballet, the symphony orchestra, the philharmonic. They're all going, yeah, we're ready. And me too, I was like, I was standing a little straighter, And he was really good. He says, you're going to give them the best show. You're from China. You're going to give them China's best music, rooted in tradition. And they're going, yeah. And he was a Buddhist, but not he was more of a director. He was an entertainment person. But just watching his words transform these monks into, readiness for the stage. And so they came out, and their choir performance was terrific. It was great. They really entered the music, and they sang 12 different numbers, well prepared. And when it came time to sing Now I Know This Alone, it was great. It was just terrific, So then there was a Chinese orchestra from Da Xiangguo Si. And the story about this, what is a Chinese orchestra? Well, they played traditional instruments. And the instruments that they played came from the Han Dynasty, right? 2,000-year-old instruments, which included the pipa, and the guzheng, and the dizi, and the dongxiao, and the guqin, and 3 kinds of drums. And the people who know our monks' instruments, the pancake, ding, 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 they had ding-dings in all the different notes. Ding, 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 like that. And they're all lined up, ding, 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 like that. And they had, the story goes, when there was an emperor, and it was a Han emperor, and they had his name. He built his capital in I think it's in Kaifeng, I believe, which is in the cradle of Chinese civilization in Henan province, and near Luoyang. And he had a monastery that was his imperial monastery, and as the emperor, he wanted a band. Emperor's got to have a soundtrack. Da dun 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 dun. So he enters and exits, What do? Hail to the chief who in honor advances, the President of the United States. So we have our own, we have a soundtrack. But he had an orchestra that he created that played these incredible Buddhist tunes, and you know what? They never stopped playing. They still play the same music, they preserved it. They played the same music they played in the Han Dynasty for the emperor. Historically verified, right? So here was the orchestra from Da Xiangguo Si, right there on stage. And they have not been outside of China very often, right? So what a treat it was to listen to them play this incredible music. And these were what? Bhikshus. They were monks whose cultivation included playing the dizi and their percussionist, their drummer, was an outstanding drummer. He's this old crusty bhikshu, right? And I looked at him, and I hang out with musicians too, mostly stringed instrument players. And when somebody's got that look, there's something special about them. It's like they have antennas tuned to a different frequency, And this guy had it. He was like, he's very chill, eyes half kind of like that. Until it was time to play the drums. And he had this set of, we've got our drum back here, a little drum, and in the back we have some big drums. But his drums were taiko style drums, not the bung da dum. They had one of those too, and the taiko drummer had a solo. But this guy was the drummer, the heartbeat of the Da Xiangguo Si orchestra. And he had qi that made your spine tremble. And my entrances and exits were right beside the drums. So I'd say my bit and come back, and I'd stand there. And he was, and he would raise his drumsticks up, and you could see he would just, boom, boom, like that. And it was, blah, And he was a skillful drummer. He was a real percussionist. But it was his Buddhist chi and his love of the music and the fact that he was, the heartbeat of this entire performance made it really special. And so I came out sonic acupuncture. I was so loose because I've been standing next to getting my spine massaged. It feels good. So not only so we had the choir, we had the orchestra from Da Xiangguo Si, and we also had the monks of Shaolin Monastery that had been handpicked by the monks of Lingyan Si, mostly Master Guangquan. They went over to Dongfeng to visit Shaolin Si and talked to Master Yongxin and said, who's ready to go on tour with us to New York? And they looked at a lot of monks, and they picked out 8 young men. And boy, I was impressed with the skill and the dedication of these young men who they were all bhikshus, celibate monastics, but they had trained their bodies in the tradition of Shaolin Monastery to imitate animals. That was one of their first performances, was becoming frogs before your eyes, turning into praying mantises or tigers or monkeys or snakes in front of your eyes. And then they did a weapons set, and the weapons were spectacular. And then they also did softer movements and meditative movements. And it was very, you could say, musical in the sense that they were listening to a rhythm for the gestures and for the movements, synchronized with their buddies. That was at once martial, but it all came back to the Dantian. You could see this is special martial arts. It's not to kill you or knock you down. It's to train the body to push the limits of what is possible with flesh and blood and breath and spirit. So all of this, what's my point in telling you about this, is it was all a performance of Chinese Buddhist music. And it accompanied things like the tea ceremony. There was one number of called Chan Cha Yi Wei, Chan Cha Yi Wei. Tea and Dharma share a single flavor. And they had a monk gracefully preparing tea, and they had a Shaolin monk here doing meditative postures, and they had a little 6-year-old come out, a 6-year-old monk, and his old shifu with a long white beard, who was the real trainer of the bhikshus at Shaolin Monastery. And they were coming out, and the young boy would take a horse stance, and the old gentleman would give him the right form. And the monks at the orchestra were playing beautiful guzheng music behind it. And it was really, transcendent sounds overdone. Was it really transcendent? In a way it was, because music and spirituality cross over. Now, in the West, what do we have? Do we have any sacred music in the West? Oh, a little. How about Johann Sebastian Bach? A little. People say that when you hear Bach's music played well, you're in the heavens. it's Deva music come to earth because it's precise, you know. And then what about, Schubert, Brahms? What about, you know, the Messiah, Handel, given to the church? Most of Western European classical music is religious in nature, right? It came patronized by the Pope or by the bishops. So, yeah, we have lots of sacred music. But so does Buddhism in China. And this performance was brilliant because largely at the inspiration of monk Guangchen, the abbot at Lingyan, he had gone through and found the best of contemporary Chinese music, in some cases that goes back 2,000 years to the Han Dynasty, and how, you know, Shaolin Gong Fu was supposed to be created by Bodhidharma, Tang Dynasty, just before the Tang. So that's 1400, you know. Here it is alive on stage in New York, you know. Now, should you want to see it yourselves, come to Australia in February, because I'm told that the troupe is on its way down to Sydney in February, from the 14th to the 6th. So if you want to come hang out in Australia, watch the performance again. I'm going to be the MC again. I get to reprise and I'll try to be on time this time. There's a story there, but I won't tell it tonight. So, but yeah, they're going to do it again, I've been told. So that's the plan. We'll see what happens. So here's the Devas, and I told you the story about going out to Dunhuang and standing next to a wall that was first painted in, you know, the 7th century or the 8th century, that has a Deva orchestra. They're these very beings that we're reading about tonight, told by the Buddha as if it were a news report. This is not fiction. This is not somebody's impression. This is the Buddha saying, this is what happens when the Buddha is about to speak the 10. There they were on the wall, painted, you know, here's one Deva playing a pipa, and here's another one playing her flute, here's another one hitting a drum, here's another one playing a ocarina, you know, the that thing. Another playing a conch shell, you know. There it is. And I'm like looking at it with my eyes, and there it is on the wall. It's like, time collapses. And these sounds that are made, you know. How many centuries have those been resonating? Does that ever stop? Does it just keep moving out into the atmosphere? So, yeah, at Dunhuang there's the visual, here's the intellectual, the word-based. That was eye. So this goes into the eyes, that goes into that goes in the right brain, maybe, something like that. And it's really real. I want to bring it out and say, this is not just an old book. This is talking about something that maybe is happening tonight in the heavens. Who knows, right? Timeless. Okay, so that's that first paragraph. Second paragraph we just read. What do they say? The Deva women sing. Oh boy. And they say, the Buddha sits in repose in one land. Okay, you see him sitting there, just like our Buddhas behind me. Yet, his bodies appear in all worlds everywhere. Well, that's magical. Science doesn't know how to explain that, but the sutras say it's all coded right in there. The function is awake now. You have it, I have it. It's not awake in us. His physical hallmarks are majestic and limitless. So that's talking about appearance. Earlobes, hair, right? Voice, length of his arms. Interestingly, one of the 32 hallmarks is webbing between the fingers and toes. The Buddha as amphibian, right? Aquaman, Aqua Buddha. Why is it? Yeah. One of the 32 hallmarks. The ability to maybe. Who knows? As they fill the great expanse of the Dharma realm. Right? So many of these appearances and hallmarks that everywhere is the Buddha's body. Okay, so we're the way our brains are wired, not just, the way our brains, the way our perceptions, not just limited to the brain, the way our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body are set up chemically, what we are able to see and hear and imagine is limited, probably for a good reason. If that didn't happen, if we didn't have certain limiters to the things that our brains can do, we'd probably be immobilized. We wouldn't want to move because everything would be happening at once and it would be just overwhelming. They talk about governors, right? Governor meaning something that stops the movement. Now, I'm not going to personalize this experience, but, and looking at the audience, chances are there aren't that many folks who would say, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about personally. But there was a time in the 60s and 70s when people of my generation were experimenting with substances that allowed us to go beyond the governors of the mind, right? People got stoned, people got high on chemicals and plants, things like that. So not talking about the wisdom behind it, it was a phenomenon, right? What I heard people describe was synesthesia, where your eyes could hear sounds, and your ears could see things, and your tongue could smell, and your nose could taste, and colors and sounds all like that. What's going on? Subtle changes in the chemistry, the neurochemistry of the brain, right? Which suddenly, quote, the fabric of reality, unquote, is different than it was a minute ago. And that's pretty freaky, especially when it's triggered by something artificial in the system, right? Never mind the drug side of it. What about alcohol? What's fun about getting drunk? Well, not much. The day after is really not fun. But you lose what are called inhibitions, right? Ordinarily, you wouldn't sing that loud karaoke, right? But after 3 beers, everybody, how does it go? You think, let's see. 我的心也将我的爱, right? That's 3 beers worth of karaoke, right? Oh, they can relate. Okay, some people can relate to that. All right. So, go, what happened? Well, you remove some of the inhibitions. That's a governor, right? What is it? It's alcohol in the bloodstream. Well, so my generation didn't do alcohol that much. We did other stuff that was suddenly available within a matter of years, and people experiment. Pretty much not so much anymore, because that experiment turned out to be unwise and harmful in many cases. So, not recommended, okay? But people who imbibed those substances said, gee whiz, the fabric of reality became porous and fluid. It wasn't ordinary reality. What changed? Just the tiny, tiny percentage of some other chemical. So the point is what? Ordinarily, our brains are locked down tight to familiar pathways of perception. Only this much, right? No more. Now, remove a tiny habituated pattern of chemical response. And suddenly, whoa, suppose we could hear everybody breathing in the room, just like you're hearing my voice, right? Can't stand it. Please stop that, right? I don't want to hear everybody breathe. Suppose, the coming in. Suppose that was just available. Suppose it wasn't the breathing part. Suppose it was the thoughts. Suppose we could hear really what everybody is thinking, not just ourselves, right? Or suppose suddenly, 今、話すのことは、日本語です。中国語じゃないでしょ。皆さんはわかりますか？いえ、全然わかりません。どうして？日本語から。Right? What's different? Just a little. But it's nothing, it's all suddenly foreign sounds, right? Little bit of change. So, what the Devas are telling us is that the Buddha now, from their perception of him, and they're going, yes, Buddha, go Buddha, we love it. The Buddha's appearance goes, suddenly it's not just that monk sitting in full lotus or standing, he's like, and they're going, wow, Buddha, big, right? No, they're not. They're going, the Buddha is wonderful. He can completely fill the great expanse of the universe with his infinite amounts of hallmarks, which is what? His appearance, his amazing, light-filled, peace-generating, right? Now, this is a two-dimensional text, of black words on white paper. We interpret it to get language. They say when we are face-to-face with the Buddha that there is an emotional affect of the Buddha's presence, which is you feel safe. And because you feel safe, all fear vanishes. Right? So what are we afraid of? Losing face. I'm safe. The Buddha knows who I am, and he loves me. Buddha loves me, this I know, for the sutras tell me so. Right? I don't have to worry about pleasing the Buddha, the face. No. It's like, what else? Nobody's going to hurt me because I'm at home. I'm where I belong. I don't have to move an inch. And the Buddha's light reminds me that it's all inside. And any single thing that I seek outside myself, I will never get because it doesn't exist. How liberating is that awareness? You just give up the search for beauty. Your shoe closet just shrinks to nothing, right? Your makeup kit just no longer valuable, right? Because beauty is not defined by any color or style, right? The cars we drive, our insurance policies. Why? Just act differently and that's the best insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I'm just randomly pulling stuff out of the air. What must it be like in the presence of the Buddha? It must be wonderful to have that sense of, Shifu would say, 得其所在, 得其所在. You are right where you belong, wherever we are. You can't improve it a bit, right? How wonderful that would be. And that's the emotional affect of being in the presence of the Buddha. And these Deva women are going, yeah, that's mighty, mighty good. And we like it. Okay? So far, so good. Next one. The next miracle, incredible thing. Here we go. 于意毛孔放光明. Your turn. 于意毛孔普灭世间烦恼暗. 果度微尘可知数. 此光明数不可测. Okay, to the right. Ready? From a single pore on the skin, he sends forth bright lights that dispels the darkness of being's afflictions everywhere. One could count the fine motes of dust in lands, but the quantity of those lights could not be. Okay, there was a grammar error in there. It should be the dispel. Lights dispel. Okay, here's one of those remarkable hallmark things, right? The physical hallmarks, which is what? Able to emit light from a single hair pore. Okay, and how many hair pores are there? The 84,000, right? Lots and lots of pores in the skin. And the Buddha, because of his nature being uncovered, boom, it turns to light. And that light comes forth, and what does the light do? It functions. Notice, this is what the lights do, is they make your afflictions go away. They break the darkness of our greed, anger, delusion, pride, doubt, etc. Whatever it is that ties us in knots, that light blasts it away and we go, oh, I didn't need that, did I? Why was I so fearful? How come I just couldn't function when certain buttons were pushed? Yeah, don't need that anymore, it's gone. That's not anything other than the darkness that covers our nature being dispelled. Because those things were voluntary to begin with, right? We had to agree to tie ourselves up in those knots. So the Buddha's light shines and we go, oh, good, I'm glad I got rid of that, right? So one could count the fine motes of dust and lands, but how many lights there are, you still wouldn't know. In other words, lots of lights. Lots of lights. And I'm sure it's like, that experience is like this. Do you all remember being small in the dark in your room, and Mom turned the lights out and went downstairs, and there was something in the closet waiting for the lights to go out, or maybe it was under the bed, right? You remember? Probably not. I do. I remember I had a brother, my older brother. I still have a brother. My older brother Steve and I would, you think it's hungry? You think it's still there? I don't know. We slept in the same room. We had bunk beds up above and below. And it was in the closet, And for a kid, that can be crippling, terrifying, And what, as adults, what do we do? There's nothing in the closet, don't we? Maybe it's still there. I don't know. But for an adult, the adult goes, that's kind of cute, It's okay. I'll go open the closet. Don't open the closet, Mom. I'll open the closet. Here, I'll give you a flashlight. You look. Whatever you do to show your kid that it's really not in the closet. But for the kid, So we think, that's childhood fears of the dark, afraid of the dark, scared of the dark. Yep, we are, right? But now from the adult's point of view, doesn't exist. The Buddha's light shines on our afflictions from a pore of his skin, and the things that trouble us, right? What if I get downsized and laid off? Do I have to give up my house on the peninsula? Right? What about, what if my kid really goes through one of those phases and do well on the SAT? Does your school still accept the SAT? I heard there's 70 schools now. Jerry, I'm losing battery. There's 170 schools. No, I'm not. It's 3 bars. They say, no more SAT. Ha. We won't go there tonight, but Educational Testing Service, ETS, that runs all the GRE, SAT, PSAT, GMAT, etc. If you communicate with them, their mailing address is in Princeton, New Jersey, right? Is there a company located in Princeton, New Jersey? No. They're in Secaucus or somewhere. They only keep a post office box in Princeton, so you think that somehow it's a higher level academic endeavor than it really is. It's not. It's a for-profit institution that through some political maneuvering, managed to get themselves recognized all over America as somehow the gold standard for how your child will perform in school, right? There's something also darker about that. Should we go there? Anyway, the U.S. Army at one point was afraid that black men in particular would become officers. This was back in, before just after the war, between the wars. And so they came to University of California to get a test designed to weed out applicants who didn't have a certain vocabulary. The professors who wrote it were Professor Jensen and Professor Shockley. Check it out. Not tonight, just go when you go back. Jensen and Shockley came up with the test that was racially weighted to bias white officers. And the military paid for it. Professors Jensen and Shockley, faculty members, UC Berkeley, wrote the test. And it was used for years until somebody said, this isn't right. There aren't that many white folks qualifying for officers either. We have to open it up so we get better officers. Okay, well, at some point, American educators said, we need a test to determine how students, predictive test. Whose test did they buy? The military's test written by Jensen and Shockley to keep black kids out of the military, out of officers' positions. The basis of the SAT, if you go back, and this is all public record, you get the original tests and check out the questions. That things are different now because people got wise to this, but the questions up into the 70s were not that different on the SAT and the military test. And this was the gateway that you had to pass through to get into schools, right? Oh my goodness. So the SAT and Educational Testing Service is a dark chapter in U.S. education, and the sooner it's removed, the better, in terms of actually lifting. People say, what's wrong with our educational system in America? Why is it broken? There are reasons. Which brightest kids get into the prestigious schools? So there's a big push right now for University of California to drop the SAT. Are you aware of that one? It's waiting a couple of signatures, and they have to. It's the Board of Regents, of which our governor sits, where our governor sits, and the legislature. So that would be a big blow to Educational Testing Service, because if University of California says no, many, many, many other schools would follow along and say, thank you, no, right? So we're seeing a change. And then something else will have to replace it, but chances are it won't be your vocabulary, right? When I headed for graduate school back in the 80s, 90s, I took a prep course from Princeton Review, and they wrote the book that they did the research. And the Princeton Review staff, the people who were teaching us how to crack the test, in this case it was the GRE, one of the criteria was if you wanted to be a staff member, you had to take the GRE and get 100% every single time. And the staff members could, because why? They knew the code. And what the test tested was how good you were at taking tests, not your scholastic aptitude at all, right? So anyway, that's another story. But we're, looking at the nature that the Avatamsaka Sutra is pointing out to us to show us what we're capable of. And the key to that is called the Bodhi resolve, the Putishin, right? The wish to wake up, translate it. And if somebody comes up to you and says, did you know you could be really wise? Depending on your mood at the time, you might say, no, I don't. I'm just a girl. No, I'm not. I dropped out of college my second year. No, I don't have the potential to be really wise. I was bad in math. Various answers that we could come up with, just because why? Limited. Answer again. Why do we come up with those answers? It's because pretty much we still learn monkey see, monkey do. What our parents tell us from childhood we are capable of is pretty much what we know, right? And if you didn't get the vocabulary that certain tests were testing for, you're not capable of higher college work, right? Baloney! Not true, right? Why do we think this sutra is for somebody else long ago and far away? Who's ever told us that this is talking about us sitting in the Buddha Hall in Gold Coast Dharma Realm or Berkeley, California tonight? So, who said it that way? Master Hsuan Hua, our founder. 90 minutes, every night, he was alive and breathing in America. He was sitting in front of a sutra saying, take this as a mirror. Look at your face. Take this as a blueprint. Walk where it leads you. Take this as a recipe for ultimate mental health. You become your own psychotherapist. This is the healthy human being. Pick it up and make it yours. You would say, Niman Dongma. Do you understand? Because why? It seems so far away, doesn't it? It seems so abstract, and somehow they say the peak of Buddhist philosophy, when there are philosophical elements there, but this is not intended to please the intellectually curious. This is medicine. Page 4 and 5. All the exquisite Deva maidens, limitless in number. Got the melody? Rejoiced everyone as they made offerings to the Buddha. They all played marvelous music of many kinds and praised the Buddha with the following words. Here we go. You get to sing along with the goddesses, right? The Buddha sits in repose in a single land, yet his bodies appear in all worlds everywhere. His physical hallmarks are majestic and limitless in number. Squeeze all those syllables in there. As they fill the great expanse of the Dharma realm. There we go. From a single hair pore on the skin, he sends forth bright lights that dispel the darkness of being's afflictions everywhere. One could count the fine motes of dust inland, but the quantity of those lights could not be known. Now that's all we read, so I don't want to jump ahead, but I think this is really fun to be able to sing the sutra, right? Here we go. What'd you do on Saturday night? Oh, we sang the Avatamsaka Sutra. Cool. Let's see now. D. Oh. It's got to mash down all 12 strings. That's good. Can you all turn to page 51 in your songbook? If anybody knows your lullabies, this is called All Through the Night. I believe this is Brahms' lullaby, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, the fun part about this song is it gets all of the Eightfold Path included. Not only verse by verse with the definition, but all 8 in the last verse. So if anybody ever wonders what the Buddha's recommendation for right livelihood, right? The Eightfold Path comes out of the Four Noble Truths. What do the Four Noble Truths say? It says that suffering can end. Suffering can end. And how does it end? It ends by the Tao. Ku Ji Mie Dao, the path. And what is the path? It's this one. And somehow 8 sounds like a lot, right? But if we can sing them, we can remember them. Here we go. First we learn wise understanding. Your part? Eightfold path. You can do that. Next we learn wise aspiration. Eightfold path. Here we go. Understanding leads to practice. Aspiration guides our wisdom. Walk it to the end of suffering. So far, so good. Right what? Understanding. Chengjian, right? Here we go. Wisdom speech is true and gentle. Wisdom's action follows precepts. Speech gives courage to the fearful. Action shows the power of virtue. Walk the elder's way of wisdom. Okay, we got Zheng Yu, right? Right speech and action. First is aspiration, understanding and aspiration. Zheng Jian, Zheng Siwei. Then right speech and right action. Zheng ye, zheng yu, zheng ye. Right? Okay. We got 4 out of 8 already. Let's do 4 more. Here we go. Wisdom's livelihood, right? Wisdom's livelihood is harmless, eightfold path. Wisdom's vigor serves the helpless, eightfold path. Livelihood respects all beings, vigor can protect the planet, walk the way of great compassion, eightfold path. Okay, we got livelihood and vigor, zheng ming, zheng jing jin. That's the 2-syllable path walking. Okay, last 2, ready? Wisdom's mindfulness remembers eightfold path. Focus with wise concentration, eightfold path. Mindfulness brings satisfaction. Concentration leads to wisdom. Walk the way of peace and happiness, eightfold path. So that's zheng nian and zheng ding, right? Mindfulness is a good buzzword these days. And concentration is samadhi. Okay, now the fun part is all 8 in one verse. Ready? Understanding aspiration, eightfold path. Wisdom's speech and wisdom's action, eightfold path. Wisdom's work and wisdom's vigor, mindfulness and concentration, walk the road to liberation, eightfold path. All right, there it is, Magali. Now, let's see here. Dee-da, 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 dee-da-da. Dedication of merit, last page in the songbook. Or if you've got your requesting Dharma sheet, it's on the flip side. We do this by sending out our wishes for how we want to build a better world. Dedication of merit. Interactive, you have to do your part to make it work. Ready? Here we go. Make that wish. May every living be our minds as one and radiant with light. There we go. You beat me to it. With hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. One more. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay. Thank you to Robert Taylor for making such a fine guitar. Could we talk about the events that are going to happen this week at Berkeley Monastery? Who's got the mic there? Can we share that?
So tomorrow in 8:30 a.m. We'll start the Buddha's recitation until 10:30. I think will be meal offering, and those people who will come for this practice will stay for lunch, and 12 will be done, right? And we have also all the classes like usual as goes. On Wednesday, Stephen Tainer. All right, it's cancelled. Actually, Wednesdays, this coming Wednesdays, no Stephen Tainer class.
Good. We announced that here.
Yeah.
Once again.
Yeah, Monday's normal. Amelia.
Yeah, Amelia's class Monday night, yoga and qigong.
Right. And Thursdays inside Berkeley Meditation Community, 7:30. And Friday, Professor Marty Verhoeven is continue his lecture about Avatamsaka Sutra.
All right, good, lovely. And
also, the following week on Sunday, November 17th, I believe, Jingfo Shi and the Berkeley Monastery, we're having our family program. So I think the theme is going to be on gratitude in spirit of Thanksgiving. So if you have children or you're a parent and you want to kind of come to the monastery for a fun event, I believe it's 1:30 to 4:30 on Sunday.
Okay, the calligraphy group is learning the Sanzi Jing. No? Oh, 感恩不是 eh? Oh, Thanksgiving. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. People by nature are good at their birth. The nature's the same, but with habits diverge. Right? 人之初，性本善，性相宜，习相近，习相远。苟不教，性乃迁。教之道，看手机。See, half the audience laughed. What? You guys didn't laugh. What? Okay, lovely. This is our next to last live Avatamsaka lecture, starting 2 weeks from tonight. It'll be a virtual Avatamsaka lecture, and we're going to turn the cameras around to make sure we know you're still here, every one of you. Yeah. So, because I will physically be in Australia, and but it's 12:30 there, and the lectures, I'll be sitting in the Buddha Hall at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. And that's a remarkable community of folks who are getting a flavor for the Dharma. So there's a live audience. There's the translation going out to China from there. And the room here, the cameras are on, and I can actually see you. It's fun. You can see me, and I'm sitting there hoping that the internet doesn't break because we're out in what's called the hinterlands. And my lecture comes to you on a Telstra portable modem. It's one of those hotspot little boxes. And it works great, as long as all the conditions are there, which is no kookaburra has landed on top of it to pick it up and carry it to his nest. That's one. Because it's outside, because inside the reception is not good. You know? And no snake has slithered over the top of it and thought it was an egg and carried it back to his nest. And there are no hailstorms or other atmospheric issues. So it's pretty thin connection, but technology is quite marvelous. And I'm hoping that If you're listening online, Jerry, how many folks tonight? Okay, 60 on YouTube, 39 online. For somebody who's watching, on your computer, it's no different. It's just a screen. But we hope that folks will find the community here and support each other. And for some of those weeks, I will be traveling around Christmas and New Year's. Heng Sure will be filling in. But by and large, once I'm in Australia, it's pretty steady. The lectures are regular, almost more than when I'm here and running around continental United States. So, all right, good indeed. So we heard a little bit from the goddesses tonight. Think about it. We heard how goddesses sing, what they praise. The Buddha's hallmarks. Inconceivable. And they didn't pay a penny to do it. How about that? So, shall we bow to the Buddha and see you all next week? Have a week full of blessings. If you have relatives in the East Coast, tell them to bundle up. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo Da Phang Guang Huayan Jin Huayan Fo Tu San